We'll hear argument today in Case 17-965, Donald Trump, President of the United States versus Hawaii. Mr. Francisco.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the Court. After a worldwide multi-agency review, the President's acting Homeland Security Secretary recommended that he adopt entry restrictions on countries that failed to provide the minimum baseline of information needed to vet their nationals. The proclamation adopts those recommendations. It omits the vast majority of the world, including the vast majority of the Muslim world, because they met the baseline. It now applies to only 7 countries that fall below that baseline or had other problems, and it exerts diplomatic pressure on those countries to provide the needed information and to protect the country until they do. The proclamation reflects a foreign policy and national security judgment that falls well within the President's power under 1182F and has been successful, which is why the country of Chad was recently dropped from the list.
But you mentioned 1182F, and the worrisome thing about this is that the President acts, Congress is the one responsible for making the laws about immigration. It has been suggested in one of the briefs that we read 1182F to allow the President to suspend entry, but only for a period of time long enough for Congress to say yea or nay.
Your Honor, yes, 1182F is a broad and flexible power in a narrow area. Here, however, I think that you don't need to explore those outer limits because the proclamation's meant to help implement the INA by making sure that we have the minimum level of information needed to determine if aliens are admissible under the INA. In terms of a time limit, I think that's simply inconsistent with the text of the statute and inconsistent with virtually every 1182F proclamation ever issued. Here we have a
I'm sorry, Mr. General. I thought that Congress had looked at the situation and created a statutory system that addressed the very concern the President is expressing. Congress said you can have visa waivers if you can meet the 3 criteria that this special committee of the President looked at. And if you don't, you have to have a very heightened extreme vetting process, and it created that vetting process and suggested its parameters. More importantly, it took terrorist countries and designated which ones supported terrorism and added another layer of review and said if you're a national from one of those countries or you have visited one of those countries in the recent past, you also have to get the permission of the Attorney General and the Secretary of State to affirm that you are not a danger to the U.S. But what I see the President doing here is saying, I'm going to add more to the limits that Congress set and to what Congress said was enough. Where does a President get the authority to do more than Congress has already decided is adequate?